And I would say for the Republicans that are here, like, what has he accomplished? Let's say that I want to do that I want to call balls and strikes with Trump. What has he accomplished so far in this administration? I understand it's a fair argument, just to throw that out there. It's a fair argument that it's only been 100 days, and sometimes it takes a while for some of the things you do to kick in. Yeah, but what should I be celebrating? I thought this was really interesting. Andrew Callahan from Channel 5 News is doing the rounds. Here's what I'll say about Andrew Callahan. I don't know that there's anybody, I think there's very few people who could have a more nuanced view on American politics and the American experience than Andrew Callahan. Because Andrew Callahan stays mostly out of politics, but like politically adjacent things. Like, he's been to the border multiple times. Andrew Callahan actually went to Mexico and got with some coyotes and snuck across the border to see what that experience was like. He wound up getting arrested, detained, put in jail for coming across the border illegally, because you can't do, even if you're an American citizen, you can't come across illegally, right? I just watched a video he did with gang members. I've seen him in the tunnels below Las Vegas. I've seen him in homeless encampments. I've seen him with white nationalists. I've seen him with black separatists. He's got a really, really unique view. So he went on Patrick Bet-David, and this was interesting to me because Patrick Bet-David is really low key, and Patrick Bet-David is trying to do this middle ground thing. Andrew Callahan's good at this. Andrew Callahan's really good at making Patrick Bet-David think they're on the same page and then throw him a curveball. This is like a 5-minute interview, but when I was thinking about how we go across getting our messaging across, how we go across reaching out to people who didn't vote or voted for the other side, I think Andrew Callahan gave a really good example of how to do that.
I would not describe the Democrats who control California as leftists or progressives.
What would you call them?
Liberals, Democrats.
Liberals and Democrats?
I think it's different.
So what's the difference?
I think liberals are more oriented in maintaining power for themselves, dominating the political landscape of the state.
You don't think leftists are?
I don't think leftists have any semblance of political power in the U.S.
Why do you think?
I just think they've been disenfranchised by the liberal establishment, the Democratic establishment. I think progressive people's movements. Also, if you look at, there's been over...
Just think about that 21% approval rating. I never see Democrats pushing back on that. It's true. Like, our establishment, we hate. I don't know, and they're still in there.
Half a century plus of infiltration of these organizations by the FBI, breaking them down. And we're not just talking about communists and far left stuff here. We're talking about people's organizations, Black Panthers, Brown Berets, American Indian Movement, farm workers unions, environmental groups. They were all infiltrated and taken down by the government. And so you have the Democratic establishment claiming to be a progressive organization, but I do not think that they are.
So, it makes me think. Anthony Scaramucci said something very interesting the other day.
Let me just stop it there, because what I think he highlighted there is why Republicans are able to win elections. Republican ideas are not popular. Like, across the board, their ideas aren't popular, but they're able to win elections for this reason, and they're really, really fucking good at this. They say the rhinos and the Democrats cause all the problems, and then everybody on the Republican side is like, I'm not a Republican. Those are the rhinos, right? So and Trump's great at this because he doesn't ever take blame for anything. So everything they do, they just blame, but then their actual representation, the people that they vote for the executive branch, the people that they vote for to run their party are like far right. They're like alt-righters. And so what they get to do is they get to say, oh, no, that was the old Republicans. We're getting rid of them. The new Republicans are going to be totally different. And when the new Republicans come in and they're not totally different, and they're just going to war, and they're just cutting taxes for their billionaire friends, and they're just giving everybody handouts, it takes a long time for Republicans to realize that. It takes them a while to figure out, like, oh, shit. What are we doing? What are we doing here? This is more of the same. On the left, there's not really any representation there, because now you have like AOC and Bernie getting a little more spotlight. But are they being put up on important committee positions? No. Are they in leadership? No, they're not. There's really no representation for the majority of registered Democrats or people who are more likely to vote with Democrats. But our ideas, the ideas that are most popular with all of us, there's virtually no representation for that.
Actually, very interesting. Where he said, a guy, the way the U.S. System is set up is, guy said, I'm going to go be a Congress because I think I can make some changes. And you realize you can't do shit. I'm going to go be a senator because that's where the power is. I can make some changes. And you can't do shit.
I'm tired of libs. I don't even know what a lib is. I don't know what the left is. I don't know what a liberal is. I have no fucking idea. I just know that there's a lot of people in our government that don't do shit. And there's a lot of people in this party that don't do shit. So whatever a lib is, whatever a leftist is, I don't know. I swear to God, I don't know the difference. But maybe the labeling's the problem because we never get done what we need to get done.
I'm going to go be president because, you can't do shit. So the American system is built that somebody can't. So even if the leftists that you think could change something, if they get in, they still have to go through the other people that if you give the money to them, it's not like they're going to personally go count the money and do something good with it.
Yeah.
The money is still going to go to these institutions that's ran by people that have been there for decades that you can't do nothing about them.
Yeah, it's kind of...
All right. I think everybody agrees with PBD there. And this is where you see the confluence of ideas change. PBD says everything's fucked. No matter what you do, everything's fucked. Therefore, and Andrew Callahan's agreeing, it's the therefore. It's the next part of this that this is where we need to win the discussion. And I think this is maybe something that I learned this weekend in filming is that like there are a lot of premises that we agree on. The premise that everybody in Washington is corrupt, or most of them, or the corruption wins. So even if you're not corrupt, you can't win. I think the Republicans in the chat would agree with us here. It's the therefore. Like the therefore is where we need to win the battle.
Depressing, and kind of goes back to the Luigi Mangione thing. When you talk about this deeply entrenched bureaucracy that's halting change, that kind of thing makes sense.
You know what it makes me think about, though? It makes me think about what would you trust more, a bigger government or a smaller government?
Small.
Yeah.
Small but effective in actually working for the people.
So small government means more money stays with you and I. Leave it in the market.
See, I said small and effective. Now, PBD is going to ignore effective because PBD is about to tell you what all these Republicans have done. And it's incredible. It is incredible that people like Patrick Bet-David, scammers, multi-millionaire scammers, have convinced a bunch of people who aren't multi-millionaire scammers that what they really need to do is give people like Patrick Bet-David more money. And so Patrick Bet-David's setting this up like the government sucks, so it should just be smaller so we can keep more money.
Market. I trust you knowing better what to do with the money with $1 million than the government.
Yeah.
I trust you instead of paying 45% of, let's just say you made $1 million last year, 45% went to taxes. You kept $550. How many more jobs would you have had if that was only 20%?
Yeah.
You would have kept that $250,000. Well, realistically, let's just say you had an additional $250 last year of tax saving. What would you have done with the $250 in California?
Hired more employees, been able to, expand the newsroom at a quicker pace. We expanded to the Middle East and Mexico and elsewhere as well, the UK and New Zealand. Would have been able to do that a little bit faster. I was still able to do it, but definitely it's there's not quite a sting like getting an invoice from the IRS after working your ass off for an entire year. And like I said, that sting wouldn't be as bad if they were using the money well. I mean, if I was living in a world where there was no traffic, where people were happy, and there wasn't this massive, working class despair taking over, you could feel it in the air in California.
One of the things that I think is interesting about the way that we collect taxes is that the government knows how much you owe in taxes, right? And this thing that he's talking about, this concept that he's talking about of paying the federal government taxes at the end of the year or quarterly is something that like almost no Americans face. Most of my life, I never faced that. There's been a few years, like once I owned my own business, I was an independent contractor that like also owned the business. At that point, like I did have to write a check at the end of the year, but this is something that like isn't persuasive to everyday Americans. So they hear this as a fear. The reality is the government can tax efficiently and they don't. And I think part of the reason they don't tax efficiently is I do think that conservatives, people who want the smallest government possible, they want you to feel that pain. They want tax day to come and go and be stressful. And they want you to watch that money go out of your account. Because we could have a far more efficient way to tax people. We know you can see what somebody makes on a weekly basis. You can take, or bi-weekly, you can take that out. You can average it out over the year and you tax at that percentage. And largely that's what happens when you're W-2. When you're W-2, that's largely what you sometimes, in fact, if you get like, let's say you have a bigger check than normal, whether you worked overtime or you got a bonus on that check, you'll notice that you're taxed at a little bit, like it comes out more. It's because you're taxed at a higher rate because it's guessing that you're going to make that throughout the year. I think that's part of the reason that they do it this way, so that people like Patrick Bet-David could say, here's the inefficiencies of the government. I don't like how they spend my money, so they should get less of our money.
California and elsewhere in the entire country. If that didn't exist, I would probably be okay with a higher tax rate because I would say, okay, well, I don't have to, people at large, the community, this American experiment is progressing in a mutually beneficial way.
Yeah, but if they were efficient, they wouldn't need to tax us more. You get what I'm saying? Because
generic, duh, dude. fucking duh. But Andrew Callahan's saying something really important there. I wouldn't care. Like if I was taxed at 45%, I wouldn't care if we were efficient with it. And Patrick Bet-David and Andrew Callahan's version are probably very different, but I'm just going to use my words instead of Patrick Bet-David's. My way works, theirs doesn't. And this is where we have to find the divide and move on. Patrick Bet-David says, the government is inefficient, therefore we should tax less. I should keep more of my money. One, we're in a hole. We're 37 trillion in debt. So that doesn't make sense. That's not going away. You have entitlement spending, which has to continue. You have spending on debt, and you have military spending that they don't want to cut. So I don't know how conservatives have gotten away with this as we've developed a deficit. I don't know how anybody can take a conservative seriously that sits on stage and says, we have to cut taxes. How? Mathematically, how? They never get asked that question because Americans are just selfish. They think, oh, it'll go away eventually. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just tax us less. That'll fix it. It is hard to convince people that taxing more is actually a better option for them. I think we talked about it on Thursday, but Switzerland, of all the countries, Switzerland has the most money left over. Their citizens have the most money left over at the end of every month. Money that they can invest in their retirement, money they might be able to invest in vacations, money that they can go and buy a new car, buy sunglasses, whatever, right? But they're taxed at a much higher rate than we are. But the government takes care of so many of their bills that it doesn't matter. Ultimately, our goal should be at the end of the month, do we have more or less money? And the conservative argument is always that the only way you could possibly have more money left at the end of the month is if we tax you less. But that's not true. Think of if you do universal health care and you're not paying that every month. It's paid in taxes and your employer isn't paying it every month. So at the end of the month, that $800 that you were contributing to your health care and that $400 that your employer was paying towards health care is significantly lower with your taxes. And you have more money left over. No, you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay for school lunch. Perhaps you don't have to save $300,000 for your kid to go to school. There are so many ways that we could make normal things in life, like everyday necessities, less expensive. How about internet bills? I pay $150 a month for my internet. Where the government subsidized the invention and the infrastructure, and the government paid for half of that shit. And I have to pay my internet provider $150. Go to China. Internet's free. The government just takes care of it. Why does somebody need to profit from internet lines being laid? They don't. But in America, we do that. There's $100 everybody could take care of every single month. Every month, there's $100 you could wipe off the bill. Is it going to cost anywhere near $100 per person? Not even remotely. They're going to electric vehicles. I just drove from Phoenix to LA, about 45 minutes outside of Palm Springs. There's about a 15-minute drive where it's just desert and all you see is solar panels. It used to be desert, now it's solar panels. If the government invests in solar and you have renewable energy, bring your energy costs down. I saw somebody that was living in Thailand. He said like I think his water bill is like $1 a month. His energy bill is like $23 a month. Why? Because they don't have all these profit centers standing between your money and your basic necessities. The argument that like these things are a right, healthcare is a right, roads are a right, internet's a right, whatever you want to do, it's the wrong argument. What it should be is like, what's the most efficient thing? What's the best thing for the American people? The best thing is that the things that you need to survive should be run by the government, covered by the government. It's more efficient. It's more cost effective. Take the profit center out of the things that you need daily to survive. Every other country is going that direction. We're the only ones going backwards. And it's because of people like Patrick Bet-David who have a lot of money, who like when there's a system that's rigged, because the more money he gets, the easier it is for him to make more money. He likes that. He doesn't work very hard for his money now. He always talks about his business that he runs. Bro, you're doing this all the time. You're a podcaster all the time. You're on vacation all the time. You're at the White House all the time. You're at events all the time. You're not spending all your time running your fraud business.
If there wasn't such bureaucracy in the government and the IRS.
Yeah, and so bless you. So, but to me, it's also deeper than that. Think about it. Like, let's just say I got 5 C-suites that are working for me. A CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, CFO, CTO Technology, Chief Strategy Officer, and Chief Compliance Officer.
It takes so long.
And we have a meeting at the end of the year. What's your budget? My budget is $5 million. My budget is $4 million. My budget is $3 million. My budget is $10 million. Great. If a guy at the end of the year had a $5 million budget,
Braylon, I'd rather pay for healthcare and internet and not get it for free. You don't get it for free. It's just free to use. You don't pay to use it. You pay for it through taxes. What's the difference? I'd rather give my money to, I'd rather make sure that some CEO gets hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses than have it be cheaper. That's a crazy thing. And honestly, you don't believe that. That's just a thing. You're doing the same thing. Like, you've been conditioned to get that response out. You wouldn't. You're so full of shit when you say, I'd rather pay $1,200 a month for insurance and $150 for internet than have the government provide it. Sure. Nobody believes you, dude.
Budget. But ended up hitting his budget for the year.
B. Bruce says, well said, my guy. Thanks, B. Bruce.
But they did it on 80% of the budget. So they didn't spend $5 million. He spent $4 million. You're like, dude, good job, right? You saved the company 20% of your budget. But if a guy that had a $10 million budget doesn't hit his goal, but asks for $15 million and spends $50 million, you don't have credibility.
Yeah.
So it's that simple that for me, I would much rather take more power away from them because they don't have a track record of getting good things done.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit. Our government has a great track record of getting things done. We just give all the credit to the private sector. Why do you have high-speed internet? Because the government got shit done. Why before this administration did we have solid FAA? Why did planes take off and land safely? Because of government infrastructure. Why where I'm at in Arizona, why are my freeways so good? Because of the government. Why is your kid educated? Because of the government. This is a lie. We have to undo this programming that the government is the enemy. The government's only the enemy because capitalism took over the government. Rich people took over the government. And so they stopped acting in the interest of the people. And their solution, the rich people running the government, they're like, yeah, you're right. It is the government, not us. It's the government. The solution is keep more of your money. No, it's not. The solution is take back the money that you gave to all these people for no fucking reason. Tesla would be underwater this month if it wasn't for government handouts or quarter 4. Tesla would be underwater. Q1. They would have lost money if the government didn't give them handouts. Knock that shit off. We're all sitting here struggling while the government's giving handouts to billionaires and is about to cut their taxes more. There's no mathematical sense that we have to stop listening to millionaires who are self-serving. He didn't even make a solid argument there. He's just like, oh, let me compare it to a budget and people going over budget. In my business, you lose credibility. Maybe things cost more, or maybe you have a dumbass president who introduced tariffs for no reason, and all of a sudden your costs went up 125%. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons for that. But this lie of the government is inefficient compared to private business is a fucking lie. In every sector where you have a public option and a private option, the public option is far more efficient. Healthcare is the perfect example every time. The money that you put into healthcare that the government pays out, they use far more of that money to pay for care than private insurance. Far more. There are areas where the government is far more efficient. But you've been programmed into believing that private is always better. It's just not true.
They keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger at what expense? So that's the part where I think a part of why Kennedy and Trump's are so hated is because the one thing those two have in common is the establishment couldn't stand these guys because they couldn't control them. What do they have in common? They both have money. And
yeah. Our government, the establishment, our government couldn't stop them because they have so much money. Elon Musk just is telling Congress, no. Here's a subpoena. No thanks. Elon Musk just goes through and cancels inspector generals that are investigating him. Yeah, the problem we have with Trump, I don't know why he looped RFK in there. RFK, that's not why we have a problem with RFK. But Trump, yeah. Elon, yeah. Zuckerberg, yeah. Bezos, yeah. Basent, yeah. Linda McMahon, yeah. They have so much fucking money that the government can't tell them what to do. We all have to. And they can do whatever they want. Yes, that's why we have a problem with them.
They both had to.
By the way, that's why Patrick Bet-David has this podcast. Because he's rich and he bought a bunch of viewers and he hired a bunch of very, very prominent people to come on his show, and he pays a lot of money and he flies people and he gives them great accommodations. Look, Andrew Callahan didn't come here on his own dime. Andrew Callahan was flown here. They put him up in a nice hotel. They may have given him a food per diem. The reason that he's able to do what he does and compete in a way like this guy doesn't get to the top if he started where I started. Nobody would have given a shit about Patrick Bet-David. But yeah, that is the problem, that that the access to money gives you more power.
Ears of who?
Yeah.
Some of the most powerful people in Hollywood, and they like them.
Yeah.
Trump on the right, Kennedy on the left.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like that relationship where they were both hated. CIA, FBI, the Fed. Who the hell are these guys? Trump's not getting along with the Fed. Kennedy didn't get along with the Fed. There's some of those commonalities.
Yeah. He keeps bringing in RFK. I don't know why. Trump doesn't get along with the Fed because he keeps breaking the fucking law. And if you break the law a lot, you're probably going to have problems with the Fed. It's interesting that, by the way, that Bumpy Johnson is in here because I just finished watching American Gangster again. And so it's interesting that you're in here. By the way, that thing about wait times, let's end that right now, Bumpy. The country with the longest wait times in the world of like all the G7 countries is Canada. Number 2 is the United States. Two very different systems. There is a problem with wait times. It has nothing to do with who pays for it, whether it's private or it's public. It has and Canada's wait time length is for different reasons than ours.
Where now the flip side of it, guess what Trump and his camp have to do? If they don't produce results, guess what happens?
What?
Nothing. They didn't produce results the first time around. You guys put them back in. Nothing happens to them if they don't produce results. You know how I know? What have they done? They have produced 0 results so far, except for making things more expensive and crashing the stock market. And you're still here cheerleading it. They're crashing the stock market. They're going to fuck up our supply chains. They're just like doing COVID without the COVID.
Oh, the other side's going to come on and say, you had him. What did they do? Nothing.
And that's kind of where I'm at as well. Like, I'm obviously not a big Trump guy, but if positive things happen for the country during the Trump term in these next 4 years, I'm going to report on that. You know, I'm not dedicated to making Trump look
I know
bad.
you are. No,
you know
I know you are. Yeah.
If great things start happening, it's not like I'm going to look for an alternate angle that undermines the success. I'm just looking at how average people are living every day, happiness and, fulfillment.
Very cool.
Great job, Callahan. I agree with that too, by the way. I think Callahan will do that. It's interesting to hear PBD. Like, let that resonate for a second, though, PBD, because you won't. You're not going to call it out. And I would say for the Republicans that are here, like, what has he accomplished? Let's say that I want to do that I want to call balls and strikes with Trump. What has he accomplished so far in this administration? I understand it's a fair argument. Just to throw that out there, it's a fair argument that it's only been 100 days, and sometimes it takes a while for some of the things you do to kick in. Yeah. But what should I be celebrating?